Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digital brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digitalk,
As he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digitalk TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Viewers, good morning. My name is Norman Tumhimbise, and I'm with Justice Kanyeihamba. The purpose for which we considered having such a show is to ensure that Justice Kanyeihamba takes us through his experience, but most importantly, this show aims at teaching and lecturing citizens about the constitution history of our country, Uganda, from way back in 1962. So we shall be having episodes in regards to the Constitution, its history, its amendments, the purpose for which citizens ought to understand what is in that Constitution, the powers of citizens, the powers of the leaders, to mention but a few. Our episodes are beginning with effect from today, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. to around 1 p.m. Justice Kanyeihamba, the last time we were here is when you had your birthday and the rest, and by God's grace, we are still in the birthday month, and you are still looking young. Yes, say hello to our viewers, and then we shall begin.
Thank you very much, Norman. It's very great to be here again. And I want to also thank you publicly that not only did you contribute to my birthday a few days ago, but Alternative Digital team, very surprising, brought me a beautiful cake. I am 83 now, but when we talked about it, you say, I think 83 age is too old. You are
38.
You reverse 38. So thank you very much for reducing my age. You are not alone. You know, recently, many of the civil servants of Uganda, when they became their retiring age, they applied to say that they are younger than what they are. So they wanted to adjust their age. Second, one of the famous of them all, who did the same, is retired Justice Kavuma Stephen. When he was retiring from the Court of Appeal, which he headed, it seems he agreed with the elements in the government that we want to make you a judge of the Supreme Court.
Therefore,
So he applied to the Electoral Commission, rather to the Judicial Service Commission, that his parents made a mistake. He's far younger than the...
So parents never make mistakes in regards to being older. They always make a mistake that favors someone to keep in power. Or
that's right. That's right.
Okay.
And I wrote an article about this scandal of public servants changing their birthdays in order to stay in office. But the president has kept quiet.
He's been exemplary in any case. He's the one who inspires them.
He himself, his age is in doubt also. Because I think in mustard seed, which you unmasked, he says that he doesn't know when he was born. But they gave him an official age of some years ago of 70, that he's now 77, so he's now over 80.
Thank you for the wonderful intro. I think before we go to the constitutional history of Uganda, let us first have your insight about today's headline. You see, in one of the papers, it's a very big headline, which states that government officials have been arrested for stealing parish development model funds.
You know, Ugandans really should all be sad. And when you see me laughing, it is not of happiness, it is of sadness. The parish
development
model service was set up by the government purposely to enrich us, to enrich the parishes. I think one of the generals of the Uganda UPDF, Salim Saleh, is involved in that business. And I think when you live here, put a question to him. So to learn that the people who are setting up, who are organizing it, are the ones who have stolen all the money. It's really very, very sad. Mr. President of Uganda, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, please, what is happening? You are former minister, and Admire some time ago is asking this question. What is happening? Therefore, it is one of the greatest scandals in the world that here is the government which is setting up
a fund to
to assist people, but those who are organizing it, who are involved, have stolen all the money. So we shall have a parish organization, rather parish organization, without any funds whatsoever.
That's Uganda for all of us.
You know, in my other publication, in the Pearl of Africa, the unexpected happened.
And that's one of the unexpected.
This is one of the unexpected.
That has already happened.
That has already happened. Thank you.
Okay, our viewers, Justice Kanyeihamba will forever amaze people with his words and comments, and definitely with his views. We want to now go back to the purpose for which you considered having this wonderful show in regards to governance, but most importantly, the constitution history. Given your experience and expertise, take us through. We need to begin our constitution history from 1962 with the first constitution, up to, by God's grace, as all of the episodes that will come by, up to the present constitution. The 1960, the first Uganda's constitution.
But I wanted to introduce the listeners and the viewers to know who is this Kanyeihamba.
Yeah, sure.
That is has agreed to undertake
such a big
teaching about
history.
About the Uganda Constitution of 1995. It's not by accident that perhaps Alternative Digital identified me as one who can help explaining the Constitution of Uganda and what it implies to the population. Before I became a judge, or rather Minister of Commerce first in Uganda, I was a senior don in the British universities. I taught at the universities of Warwick, of Coventry, of Cambridge and Oxford. I was examiner for Cambridge school certificate, where Ugandans would get O and A level in those
At the
days.
time, yeah.
I was examiner of London University in their postgraduate on land law development and registration. For that, I have a big book here, which I'm trying to give to our ministers responsible for land. Secondly, I was the examiner of the East African examination on constitutionalism or constitutional law, public law. That one you know. I was external examiner of Nairobi University in law, external examiner of Nairobi in law, and external examiner of Makerere University, where I am the only remaining
Founder
still alive founder.
of the faculty
But
of law.
but this is very shameful. The vice chair, rather the head of the whole school at Makerere, Mr. Mbazira, I think. Since he died, I died long time ago. I sent him books which you have read. He never acknowledges.
He thinks it's the ghost that sent the books.
The ghost has sent the book. Presumably, his acknowledgement and the thanks are found in my ghost grave. This is ridiculous, I can tell you. Then let me tell you on the subject we are at. The Constitution of Uganda provides in Article 104 that where there is a presidential petition, the Supreme Court shall inquire. Carry out an inquiry, not here. Because all these people who teach you, professors of Makerere, judges, know some English. So how can you
Here rather than
how can you mistake inquiry which you are obliged to do
for one here?
with hearing? We have yet, I have yet to expose it. Now, having said that, then it says, under the Supreme Court shall give its findings.
Not rule.
Findings are from
An
an
inquiry.
inquiry, not from a hearing. So I want to say it categorically now, but people will keep quiet. I wanted to disagree with me, to be excited, to say we agree with Kanyeihamba, we disagree with. Let me tell them, all the presidential elections we have had in Uganda, the 2001, 2006, 2011, 2016 have all been challenged by losers, and they are all wrongly decided. The decisions in those petitions, as I speak now, were wrongly decided by the Supreme Court, including the one where I myself sat, 2006, because I am the only one who said I carried out an inquiry, and we all did. We were 7, if you remember. The Chief Justice Odochi, Justice Odeo, Justice Sekoko, Justice Karokola, Justice Mulenga, and Justice Katulebe. we unanimously said the constitution was rigged. We unanimously said the constitution was not obeyed. We unanimously said the laws applicable,
We are
that is the election, the election, whether the Presidential Election Act, the
Electoral Commissions Act,
Presidential Election Act, the election,
Electoral Commissions Act.
yeah, Commission Act, were all infringed. We said, secondly, more importantly, the police and the army interfered positively against other candidates in support of President Museveni, who was the presidential candidate also. We said the results did not show
That Dr. Besigye had won.
the actual results because they were manipulated by the Electoral Commission and those who supported it. So we were unanimous, 7 of us, 7 Supreme Court judges said individually, by the way, not collectively, each of them of us gave our findings. So that's when we were all right. Then I write, when it came to the final decision, 2 of our colleagues who had said it should be nullified.
The petition itself?
Yes, yes, the petition itself. We are intimidated and frightened, changed their minds. So in the end, 4 of them, Jessica Tulebe and Jessica Odochi, had not changed their minds. They had always said they would dismiss
The petition.
The petition. Jessica Tulebe saying, as long as Museveni is president of the country, he is above the law. So I cannot sue him. I cannot find him guilty. Odochi, he didn't give the reasons why he would dismiss, but he's among us who says the election was not free or fair. Then
The 5 of
3
you.
of us, the late Justice Ode, the late Justice Sekoko, and myself, thank the Lord I'm still alive to tell the story. The 3 of us said the Chiza Besigye petition should be allowed and we should have another election, which is proper, legal, and constitutional. That's why for us we were saying, we never said the Chiza Besigye won the election. But a footnote, let me tell you, he won the one in 2016. That's when he won. And I had this information from Obasanjo and his colleagues, who said they should work together with President Museveni in a coalition. And if you ask him, with the other international observers, who included His Excellency Banda of Zambia, then Harold Ship, Sophia Akufo, who was then the president of the Court of the African Court on Human
Rights,
People's Rights, and another observer who is a Ugandan by the name of Chaka Sadi, the Voice of America. They came here to see me. on the Saturday following the elections. They discovered that here we had not voted because the materials did not arrive until about 4 o'clock. So, let me conclude on this matter. I'm going on too long. One professor, who is a Mchiga, the Mchiga always tell the truth, that they are also learning from other people. Professor Kabumba,
Businje of
Makerere, wrote in a book, is it something to do with honest, actually. In the book, that is about legal and political matters. It is edited, my friend, who I'm sure didn't participate in the proceedings of the books, but he wanted his name to be put there as editor, Professor Oroka Onyanga. You know what he has written. He's a brilliant lawyer and academic. So I am sure, although he hasn't told me, he did not read what Professor Kabumba said. So he said, and this is shocking to the whole world, and I want people to discuss it and make their opinion known. He said, the 2006 presidential petition was heard by 7 judges. And he lists our names, which I have mentioned. Then he said, those who who rejected the petition of Chiza Besigye, who were Justice Mulenga, Justice Karokola, Justice Odochi, and who is the other? Justice Katurebi, gave a positive judgment. He has never read the provisions of the Constitution because it shouldn't be a judgment, it should be findings. So Dr. Kabumba, who people trust their children are learning the good law at Makede, said that. Then he said, Justice Odem, Justice Sekoko, Justice Kanyeihamba gave a organic judgment. Tell me in Uganda, lawyer, professor, bishops, and that's bishop. What does a organic judgment mean? And when Professor Kabumba says the others gave a positive judgment, is this because they supported Museveni? Therefore, it is positive. So finally, we have been misinterpreting
the provisions of the Constitution
and misapplying and ignoring those cities, misinterpreting, ignoring, or deliberately distorting what our Constitution says. And that's what I wanted to give that in this program. They were talking about the Kenya election.
Yeah.
But professors there, like Professor Lumumba, you remember him?
Yeah, and
he was saying Kanyeihamba settled this matter a long time ago. Not in Uganda, but in Kenya. Because I chaired a committee of eminent judges from the Commonwealth. One from Tanzania, Court of Appeal. They don't have a Supreme Court there. Another one from South Africa, a lady from the Supreme Court of South Africa. Another judge from Canada, and a professor from Canada. So we came up with provisions which the Kenya government, unlike Uganda, adopted in Soto. When you look at the Kenya constitution, all the provisions on the code is a report of the eminent judges. In Soto, they didn't even remove a word, except to know that it also applies in Kenya. But in Uganda, anything proposed, but especially by people like Chiza, who is really a very brilliant political commentator, or Kanyeihamba, whom Museveni used to call him his troubleshooter,
rather.
or don't do it. So I have done that. I am the only one who was called as a lawyer to negotiate and draft the African Convention on Refugees. When I was a minister in the government, I used to be called by every country the expert on refugee law, because I wrote an article about it, which excited many people in the Commonwealth. The purpose of the Ugandan government and part of their intention is to obliterate anything Kanyeihamba ever said. I send them the books, they don't recognize them. I even commend them correctly, President Museveni, Janet Museveni. They don't do anything. I have written to New Vision, challenging them. Why do you continue calling Mrs. Museveni First Lady? Museveni warned us, the president, in our first or second cabinet meeting, when I was already a member of cabinet, that don't call my wife First Lady. But a New Vision, even in today, there is an article written by some zombie saying,
First Lady.
Jenny, yeah. The First Lady, Jenny, that's all the word. Are we mad in a mad house? So I would like you to ask that man who wrote that article today, a woman, why do you call Mrs. Museveni First Lady when her husband won the cabinet? Don't call my wife First Lady, because it is an American expression. First American USA calls the wife of the president First Lady. And you are aping, A-P-I-N-G. You are aping the Americans when you call my wife First Lady. In my writings, here you can have a copy. The women I have loved, Janet Museveni is one of them. They will not arrest me because I'm sure President Museveni has read it, and I don't mean any harm or any intentions. Thank you.
Okay, our viewers, my name is Norman Tumhimse. We are still with Justice Kanyeihamba, and we are streaming live on our social media pages. That is the Alternative Uganda Facebook page, and also on Digitalk TV Facebook pages. I have this question for you, Justice Kanyeihamba, before I take you to 1962 political sequence of events.
Right.
When Dr. Besigye visited you here some weeks ago, one of the most interesting thing he said, which I at that time didn't know, he said when you were presiding over, when you were one of the justices in Supreme Court during his petition, that you asked the Attorney General this key question. Remember, he had raised, for lack of another word, their defense that the abnormalities during the elections couldn't lead to the cancellation of the entire, couldn't change the results of the 2006 elections. You asked him that, look, if birds were in a tree and you threw a stone, how many birds would stay there?
Yes.
Now, tell our viewers, what answer did the Land Attorney General reply?
The Land Attorney General, who was I believe? No, the one who came into the petition was Mbabazi.
Oh, okay. It
The
is
one
Babas who
who
was representing.
argued
Okay.
for the government.
That the irregularities couldn't
Yes.
change the results in any
Yes,
case.
and when I made that comment, Mbabazi kept silent. He actually did a good job for the president.
To defend the.
Yes, he defended the win, although that win was really not true. But he represented his client very well. Even if you represent your client well or not, they can eventually lose. So in my opinion,
It was
I
a
didn't
bad.
accept Babazi's argument. But going to that, one of his colleagues answered. And he said, how would you compare a president with a bird? You are being treasonous. Which was irrelevant. Because I was giving an analogy
Yeah, sure.
that if birds are are in a tree, and usually crows do come and stay in one tree, about 10. If you
Throw a
shoot
stone.
at one of them or even kill it, the rest fly away, they don't stay there. We used to get this question in primary school. And some students said this stayed, or the others were on the other side, didn't hear, giving irrelevant answers, which Mbabazi's colleague gave.
Was that in line with security interferences and intimidations towards the electorate? That analogy of a stone to a tree that has birds. So in this
That's
view,
right, yes. Because in our election, we had soldiers, members of the police,
and UPDF.
and other security. So those of us who wanted the constitution to be
respected.
protected, we shouted loud, don't do this. But those birds did not fly away. They stayed and they did wrong, despite our objecting. And as we have seen in the case of our findings, we were unanimous.
Yeah, the constitution
And
had been abused.
later when you see my findings, I say, where we are unanimous, or where one important provision of the Constitution has been violated, there is no question this and that. I see that some lawyers in Kenya today are trying to say they want to use the substantive principle that even if there was some mistake, but the rest of the Constitution was obeyed, there is no problem. I don't buy that. Nobody in his mind who is a legal officer can use that. I said, if one
Provision is abused.
provision of the Constitution is violated or ignored, then the Constitution, the election is not in accordance with the Constitution. Because of that one failure. And it is enough to do that. Just as if the birds and the rigors of election were a bird, and you
Hit a stone.
you sound a gun loud in the tree, they would all have gone away.
Wouldn't there be defiant birds that may choose to stay onto the branch?
But if they are chicks in a nest or injured bird which can't fly, of course you don't expect them to fly.
I want to take you back to your our viewers, we want to ensure that we clear what would cause some bit of doubt, so that once we begin the real gist of this whole show, at least you have heard the preamble. When the observers led by His Excellency Obasanjo came here, as you rightly put it, and one of the photos in your house has that delegation in your home. You said, with no doubt, that just His Excellency Obasanjo, with others, asserted that Dr. Besigye had won the 2016 elections. Remember, these gentlemen and the ladies that visited you were representing African Union.
Yes.
What does that mean in regards to the powers of African Union? Is it even functional? Because if they indeed observed that Dr. Besigye had won, and that simply remained in their report, then what? Is that still relevant?
That's a very good question, very pertinent, and I will answer it very candidly. When His Excellencies Obasanjo, Banda, and Her Lordship, Sophia Akufo, and the Chakasari came here, they came in a group. So what I'm saying is where there was a consensus among them. So Justice Akufo told us that in most cases, observers are to reconcile the parties so that when they leave the country, there is no civil war. And they had convinced both Kizza Besigye and President Museveni to form a coalition, because Kizza Besigye had won. The one way I know he also won was certainly the 2016 election. That one, there is no doubt whatsoever. But in this one, Museveni's own words, not mine, he said he has no problem working with Kizza Besigye. He already knew he had lost. Secondly, Kizza Besigye was prepared to form part of that coalition and improve the rule of law in Uganda, as he told me when he visited me recently. I have no doubt to doubt him. But I did not vote on that day.
That's
when
2016.
the international observers came to observe the elections in 2016. We were waiting for materials in this area, all of us. This is about 8 miles from Kampala. Our roads are tarmac.
Walkable distance.
So we asked the Electoral Commission. I called Byamukama, he's never answered. He receives my number, pew, he says I use somebody else's number. When he hears my voice, he turns off. Why did the materials delay to reach parts of Kampala, to reach parts of
Wakiso.
Rukunjiri,
Wakiso.
to the parts of Rukunjiri? So many hours before elections. There is one man, this time I will not mention him, although I don't particularly share his article, who said, how could we get our materials to those areas of Kampala, Rukunjiri, or Kasese, where we knew Museveni would get many votes? Are we mad?
Yeah.
That is an member telling me, and he said, keep it secret. I'll keep it secret.
Our viewers.
Rather, keep my name secret.
Okay.
So I have.
Our viewers, don't hesitate to comment. We shall read your comments as we move along. But I want to take you back to a question you haven't fully exhausted. This is in regards to the powers of the AU, for example. Because remember, the observers were representing African Union. Is the African Union still relevant and has any powers to say tame and also caution such governments in the event that such governments have rigged elections?
I don't know what other observers were, but I have told you those of the former president of the Appellate Court
When
on
they came here,
human and
petitioner.
people's rights. She said, and say it's a good proposal,
Of working together.
that what is preferable? To cheat and win on corruption and there is peace, or to go in such a situation
The coalition
where the population is excited and there is civil war. So she said, one of our major recommendations
is the coalition government.
is that they should reconcile the parties so there is no civil war. So our main objective
was to have some
in
relative peace.
observing this and having some influence is to prevent civil war happening in the country. You may not agree with it, because I think I have previously said that before he died, Justice Karokola, who was
Confessed.
my friend, felt obliged to explain why he changed his mind to vote no against Shiza Besigye. First he said, before he changed his mind, that can we guarantee that
Peace
if we
after.
say the commandant of the army, commanding chief of the army, Museveni, did not win, they will not compulsorily take power and cause a coup. We said that is not our business of judges. It is not the business of the judges. It's a political question which should be answered by the
Politicians and
other presidential candidates and other politicians, heavyweights in Uganda. Then he said, can we guarantee? That is the late Karokola. And I'm sure he's uploading me wherever he is. He said, can we guarantee with our judgment? He called it a judgment. So that President Museveni does not rig again, as he has done. We say that is again another political question. We are here to interpret
the law rather
and
than
apply
politics.
the law, not really deal with those political questions. So he said, told us all in the rest of the 6 judges, he told us, for me, I am now going to allow
the petition.
The petition. Rather, dismiss the petition. So in having said that, later he himself admitted he made a mistake for changing his mind. So did Joseph Mulenga, and I put it in one of my books when they were still both alive. They were still alive when I wrote about it. None of them objected. None of them objected. So having said, that's David.
No?
Later he came, when he knew he was not going to live long. He was accompanied by his daughter. My daughter gave them lunch here. When we finished, I said, Alfred, why did you change your mind at the last minute when you had told us you were going to allow the petition of Chiza Besigye? So he looked at me with almost tears in his eyes. He said, George, I have children. Knowing where I come from, he's a Munyankole from Ankole. Knowing where I come from, do you think I would have voted against
The president.
Museveni and lived? I think we both shared a tear. I never said a word. He never said a word until they left. That's the last time I saw him.
Okay, our viewers, we are breaking briefly for a minute or so, and we shall come back with your questions, comments, but also now we shall ask Professor to take us back to the 1962, then definitely the 67 Constitution, the pigeonhole Constitution, as we move along. This is our episode 1. Kindly follow, share the discussion. We are coming back.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
How you beautiful Ugandans, it's your girl Digitalk. Welcome to the fancy flow. Who doesn't see my hair, guys? I am super glamorous. Remember, this is the only show where we're going to be talking about fashion.
Please, where are you think? Teaching.
What has been confusing you about fashion? Sorry, you said I should not smile. For all the information about fashion, maintenance of body shape.
I can wear bling bling when I'm going out. So you can wear bling bling going out or any occasion.
We shall be doing all this in the fancy flow. Remember, it airs every Thursday right from 8:30 to 9 with your girl Teddy Tanjo. It is the fancy flow.
Fellow citizens, following the sequence of events, Uganda seems to be at political crossroads.
I'm not a servant of anybody.
Madam, I know the law.
As such, Alternative Digitalk brings you the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besuje.
Let's keep on the same page on Alternative Digitalk,
as he gives you the alternatives on the transition question, rule of law, human rights and freedom, youth inclusion in governance, economic stagnation, as he confirms.
I'll be always here Saturday from 10 a.m. in the morning. Be there.
Don't miss the live discussion on the Alternative Uganda, Digitalk TV Facebook pages, and the Alternative Uganda YouTube channel.
You have got to get up pretty early to go do something. We are the Alternative Digitalk. With our mobile studios, we are redefining TV presentation just as technology is setting the pace. We are blending our approach with fresh, perspectively designed breakfast show, The Mighty Drive, informative and entertainment show, exclusive and live interviews.
We President Museveni wadde juzi namulaba apima akawunga kilo 2 tasobola kalya nini bwaba alya kilo 5 oyanema okuliisa eggwanga ne bwe limundekera.
Njagala kwebaza the Alternative Digitalk etuwadde kano ka Mighty Drive era n'abatuwuliriza bonna abali ku mikutu njagala basaba mugendo maaso n'okuwuliriza.
All given to you just a click away on your phone, tablet, laptop and smart TVs as we are streaming live on our social media platforms, on the road and on the go. We are the Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Okay, our viewers, we are back. Thank you for being patient with us for those a few minutes that we had as a break. While you were in our break this side, for us, our discussion continued, and we should forever have such discussions with online or otherwise. We want to share from Justice Kanyeihamba about the first Ugandan constitution and which faults you think it had. But before we came on air, he was sharing that there was local government. That then local government, as you called it, is it different from the local government we have now? What was it?
Oh, very much different.
Yeah, what was it, Prof?
Local government.
Headed by Ben Chiwanuka at the time.
No. Local government in Uganda during the protectorate.
Yes.
By the way, we were a protectorate.
Yes.
Many people usually say, during the colonial times in Uganda, we were never
a colony, but rather a protectorate.
Because thanks to the kings of Uganda. When the Europeans first came here, they discovered that Uganda had 4 kingdoms and a municipality called Busoga. And these natives, as they called them, were very well organized. They had laws and customs very powerful. And whereas they made the other country protect, rather colonies, they decided, no, this country we can't colonize it. It has got a very strong government and a civilization. So they declared it a protectorate. So Uganda has, during colonial time, was always a protectorate, not a colony. Even I see some very famous reporters saying, when we were a colony. Never. We may have in some ways been treated as a colony, but legally and internationally, we were a protectorate.
Do you mind teaching your viewers the difference between a colony and a protectorate? I think that's what you guide us. Yeah.
Scottish law. A colony is the legal and the practical possession of the country colonizing it. Pure and simple.
Yes.
A protectorate remains an independent in its custom, governance, and rules, except in matters like war and international law. So there is a great deal of difference
between.
But as I have already remarked, in many cases, the British government, in some cases, treated us as if we were a colony. But it is one thing to be a colony and another to be treated as one.
We go to the local government.
Yes.
Of then, because as you said, when we were in a break, we said we had local government, later on before we had the Constitution of 1962 that definitely now ushered us into the independence. How did it have a specific constitution at a time, that local government, as you said?
Yes. We were a local government of the protectorate of Uganda, but there is supremacy of lawmaking and giving us orders and anything they want to do was the British. So we were a local government under the British government,
with the chief
governed
minister,
by them.
With our chief minister, Ben Chiwanuka.
No, I'm talking even before that. Even before that, we had the local government. But our leader and supreme governor was the governor of Uganda. Governor. We started with a number of them, ended one of the best administrator in the British government, Cohen. Cohen is the one who nursed us to independence. Okay? But before that, we had local government. We had even native administrations. But they were all under the sovereignty of the British government and the parliament. Then, midway, we got what they call self-governance. Still, although we are self-governing internally, externally, we were subject to the rule of England, Britain. And that was under Chiwanuka,
as the chief
who
minister.
was our first chief minister of local government. Meaning, even the Uganda government was local,
If I may,
according to the British.
If I may ask, is the chief ministry at the time an equivalent of the prime minister later when Obote became one?
Absolutely. You got it right. So he was the chief minister, but not ruler or president of Uganda, but subject
to the British
direction, guidance, and even occasionally threats.
Okay. What were, and then so we go to the...
Then we come to the Constitution of 1962. We then go and discuss our constitutional arrangement before we become independent country. So we sent delegates. Many of them were nominated by the British. Such as the chief minister was there, who was to be Chiwanuka. The leaders of other cities were there, like the Shabazinga or his representative. The Wakama were represented by their envoys. In the case of Mbarara, for example, which was the kingdom of Ankole, it was represented by the late Grace Binjira, who later became my friend as you read my books. And others were people like Babiha from Toro, and other big chiefs from the east and the north, Ruwot, then. So they met in London, Lancaster House. If you want to read what they did, what they discussed, what they were eating, you read my other book, Evolution of Constitutional Law.
So we come, they are back, and we definitely have the first ever constitution, if that is right.
Yeah. So they agreed on the constitution
framework
when Uganda becomes independent. The chief minister would become the prime minister of Uganda, subject to the rule of the Queen of England. So we were still a dominion of the British, with the Queen as the head of our country. Then we would have ministers, as agreed to at the Lancaster Conference. Yes.
Yeah.
And then we would be self-governing. In other words, we would be recognized by the international community, America, Germany, Italy, and others, China, that Uganda is a country which is independent with its own local
administration
leadership.
How does power transit from the chief minister then, Ben Chiwanuka, to Obote now as a former prime minister?
Yeah, that is the elections we had.
The first ever?
Yes, before we became independent October 1962. There were general elections, and whoever would win them would become the prime minister. So Chiwanuka competed with Obote for the presidency.
Was that adult suffrage, or it was, how do they call it? It was, forgetting the word. It was a vote by a few individuals, like representatives or something?
I was younger then, but I remember the Ruchiko objected to be having a one-man vote, one vote. So the MPs, let's call them MPs now, from Uganda were nominated by the Rukiko of Uganda, or the Council of Uganda, delivered it rather separately, and they became
like
in
an
a
assembly,
group.
the legico, is it the legico? Have read
No,
about the
it now becomes the parliament.
Yes.
Legico ended with when we were still a protectorate. And then, so they became, those of Uganda representing as MPs in the parliament, who came as a group nominated and approved by the Kabaka.
So they now have a competition between Chiwanuka and Obote, where
That's
Obote becomes...
That was real petition. And that was the real power where it was. So both Obote competed as the leader of then UPC party, and Chiwanuka was now leading DP party. And they competed for office to be the first president of Uganda. Rather, the first prime minister.
Executive prime minister.
And because of the collision that had been, I think, induced by Obote himself,
that between
on the promise that the Buganda would benefit, Obote defeated Chiwanuka and got the majority in the parliament with the support of the Uganda MPs.
The coalition between Kabaka Yeka and UPC? Is that the coalition?
Yes, that's the one.
As a teacher of constitutional law, in your view, either through read experience or visibly seen experience, do you think that the constitution over then duped the Kabaka?
You mean now we can call what happened after Obote defeated Chiwanuka?
Yes.
We can call that one the independence constitution.
Okay. So we see the president then, because what so many avoid to say or to mention is that the Kabaka had simply been made a ceremonial president. Was it constitutional? Was he duped to believe that he would be would have the powers?
No. You see, remember at that time, we don't know who's going to be president.
Yes.
So when his party, it was called Kabaka Yeka,
yes,
the king alone, got the votes from Uganda. And when they joined together with Obote's members of parliament who supported him, the question was who is to become the president of Uganda, title head of the country. And the Kabaka Yeka members and the the UPC members of Obote agreed that it should be the Kabaka.
In your view, don't you think that Obote knew that the executive powers were to remain in the hands of the prime minister rather than the president, and therefore it was easy for him to accept that Baganda.
Absolutely, I agree with you. He knew. You see, the whole thing is, Obote and was a very astute politician.
But they had
very clever like Museveni.
They had brilliant brains like Abu Mayanja, the legal brains, and others. Mayanja and Kanji, couldn't they tell their king that, look, we are being duped into believing that your presidency has powers, and yet it's about to have the executive powers?
Let me tell you, today as we speak, the leaders of the political parties are very intelligent. Some of them are very highly learned, including the one who was being interviewed today as the leader of the Nupe party. When he's talking, you think this is a very well-to-do man talking sense. Why, if you read my book, The Defeat of Museveni and the Changing Presidential Election, have you been quoted to you, Professor Kabomba, who has avoided, because of intensive fear of what he imagines will happen to him, which is nothing, in my opinion. Nothing will happen to him for telling the truth. They were there, like we have them today. But they are silent. Because in Uganda, patriotism is possessed by very few people. A Nupe man, not Chagulanye. When I said, why doesn't Chagulanye talk to me? Do you know what he's afraid of? No. My vehicle. My vehicle is written there, UGJ. Judge. And it was originally what was my car when I was a minister. But the permanent secretary of the judiciary, Lakidi, advised me that you better buy a good vehicle since it's your time to buy a new car. And when I bought it, she said, buy it from us. I paid the commercial price. It was worse then as a second-hand car. And then she said, Mrs. Lakidi, I think she was called Jessica or somebody. He said, I advise you. I write it to the ministry to keep those numbers. UGJ. The police will help you to go to roadblock because they think you are still a judge, which I am still in one way. She was right. And I have told them that you have paid your personal cash to keep that boat. Now tell me, if you are a clever politician from Noop, do you advise the president, your president, Chagulanye,
not to meet you because
that
you
don't visit him again? He's Museveni's spy. That is the kind of politics we play here. They are rotten.
Our viewers, we are with Justice Kanyeihamba as we move along towards the closure of our show. We have this confusing, for lack of another word, so many students of law continue to be confused about the ex-parte Matovu's case. And as we move along, we have so many students watching your show, and they, for some reason, especially freshers that go through constitutional classes, want to know the implications of the ex-parte Matovu's case vis-a-vis the Kelthen's theory of Kelthen's theory about overthrowing government.
Yes.
And definitely in line with the ex-parte Matovu's case. Because there is no law student in Uganda at least that hasn't studied expert in Matovu's case, and as a lecturer of
yes,
of
first
law.
of all, I want to advise those students to read our constitution of
1995?
Yes, 1995. Because if they read it, they wouldn't be asking me this question. The constitution abolished, let me repeat, abolished that theory you have talked about.
Kelton's theory, yeah.
So if it applies anywhere else in Uganda, it is abolished. That's why I'm not happy, and I would move against any codicil happening in Uganda. It was abolished. So the simple answer is that Matovu case and what it stands for was abolished and replaced with the provisions of the 1995 Constitution.
Okay, students, you have heard, so your theory no longer applies. Now we have a new law as per 1995.
But I want to add something on that. It doesn't mean that a ruthless government
may not,
whereby the government cannot overthrow the government against the constitution and everybody. Because I want to give you an example. The Ethiopian constitution of 19 something, I can't remember the actual date, provided that the person of the president, sorry, of the king of Ethiopia, Sarisa Hargi, is divine. And the God will punish anybody who touches his body. The most powerful provision in the constitution you can read. That did not stop the revolutionaries from arresting him, touching him, arresting, putting him in handcuffs, and taking him to jail in Addis Ababa, where he died in jail.
So they jailed the divine powers.
Okay. But against us, we were also aware of that powerful provision and how it can be violated in the Constitution. So we added, quite wisely, that even if the 1995 Constitution is overthrown by anyone at all, powerful president, powerful army, the commander of the forces with his troops, the Constitution will continue. Will not die until that president or that UEPF changes. And what is certain, in the name of God, all that we are talking about will change one day.
Okay.
So that is the most fundamental provision in the Uganda Constitution, which is unchangeable.
Okay, we are with Justice Kanyeihamba, and it's quite an interesting episode. And being our first episode, we need to first clear the preamble until when some episodes to come we shall reach onto the 1995 Constitution, which he fully participated in. And there are some controversial questions towards him
about that
Constitution, with how they gave all the powers to the president. But we won't reach there for now.
First of all, before we have that conversation, I never did. But the president grabbed them.
Grabbed the powers.
And I couldn't stop him.
Okay. Let's go to the 1967 Constitution crisis.
Yes.
What led to the 67, the infamous, or either way famous, pigeonhole Constitution? Its defaults, definitely what caused to that, and its consequences and impacts to the constitutionalism in Uganda.
The crisis of the
1916,
which led to the death of the 19 But shouldn't we go first to the 1962 Constitution, the Independence Constitution, because we started with that. That Constitution was also applicable to the whole of Uganda. But certain sections were not happy with it.
Section of people were not happy with some of the provisions in
that? The eastern region were not happy. The eastern, western, northern were not happy that all the power was given
to Kabaka as president?
To the Kabaka as president. Again, this is a misunderstanding of Uganda. When the man is leader of something, and this even happened in the Kanyeihamba Foundation, you expect him or her to be the boss and do everything, even if it is done by others. So, that was the first question. Secondly, many of the supporters of the new parliament and the members thereof were not necessarily in agreement with President Obote, not even, rather with the Prime Minister Obote, not even President Mutesa this again. So, when there were allegations against the smuggle of gold
from Congo
in Congo, they got an opportunity most likely to remove Obote from power. So it was alleged that he and the commander of the army, then Idi Amin, we shall meet him later, stole gold.
And timber, as usual.
Yes. By the way, currently, our leadership is also accused of stealing gold.
So that has been
Ugandan. So these are always used as good reasons for removing somebody from power. So the late Ocheng,
Daud Ocheng,
who was a member of parliament and had also been a very confident of the Uganda kingdom, brought a motion in the parliament proposing a vote of no confidence
against Obote,
who was similarly like from the north. So when these political movements are taken, they are oblivious to relations or to other causes. So the motion was supported by my friend, the late Grace Binjira, who had been a very big influence in the UPC government. It was supported by people like the late Ngobi, then Luwum. Yes. You people, I am back at teaching history. I used to be a good historian teacher. And the Magezi of Toro, of Nyoro. They were cabinet ministers. Obote worked quickly. He had been outside the Kampala. He came, returned quickly. He organized with the military, and then he decided those who are opposed to me, Ilinjira, Magezi,
Ocheng and Ngobi,
yes, should be arrested. and taken to Luzira. Immediately they were taken to Luzira. And then, with his friends, the Uganda constitution was abolished.
That's what led us into the 1967.
That's right. And he became president, overthrowing the Kabaka also. And that's how we got the
raid to
what they call the Pigeonhole Constitution of 1967, I think. 6. No, the overthrow was in 1966.
The constitution.
Then the following year they made
67.
with the Vinisa.
Yeah.
They did Vinisa. They made the Pigeonhole Constitution. That's what happened. I knew all this because I did research when I was at Makerere as lecturer, senior lecturer. I traveled the whole country. I went to Mbarara, spent there a week. I went to Hoima, spent there a week. I went into Jinja, spent there a week, gathering materials, looking at the archives. They no longer do it. When you please the dean, you become professor.
So does this mean that between 1966 and 1971 January of Amin's coup, Uganda was under the Pigeonhole Constitution? Between 1967 and 1971?
Yes, it was.
So between 1971 and 1980, we're under, definitely we didn't have a constitution.
That's right.
What happens after the UNLFA and others taking power in 1979? Do we have a constitution between then and the 1986-85 coup? What was there at the time?
You remember when Amin was now, what I haven't told you, later, there was a Commonwealth meeting of heads of government and the state. So Obote went to attend that conference in Singapore.
In January 1970.
Commonwealth conference.
71.
While he was there, Idi Amin and the failed soldiers overthrew Obote and the constitution of 1967 and ruled by decree. So that's what happened to the
for 8 years. So between 1960 and 1970.
For about 9 years. Then during there, I came in, Rule came in, Museveni came in. Museveni had already opposed Amin's government, and they staged a battle in Mbarara where Obote defeated them. Amin defeated them. And Chiza Besigye, rather Museveni, fled to Tanzania, where he had been operating from anyway. He was already in exile. He had come to Uganda to overthrow Idi Amin. But Idi Amin defeated those forces, including Museveni. And Museveni fled to Tanzania. Then the Amin regime started butchering Ugandans everywhere. By the time we intervened as supporters of the NRA, thousands of Ugandans had perished at the hand of President Amin. One of the people who objected to his killing was the former Minister of Foreign Affairs. I forget his name, you'll find out. Then he called my former student, Ayume.
Francis. Ayume.
Francis. Because he had kept him as Solicitor General. Or rather, yes, as Solicitor General. He said, come, I'm going somewhere with you. It was at night. Around 8 or 9. When Francis stand up, and this is the words of Francis to me, because I was insisting he should stay Solicitor General, but he was refusing. He went into hiding. But before that, he had been called by his boss, Amin. They both came from West Nile. So he said, you come, Francis, and I show you. Francis arrived somewhere in Kampala, and they connected with the president. So he said, come with me. They went to the house of that foreign minister. They knocked at the door. Amin removed his own gun from his hand. Shoot the minister in front of his family. So he says, Francis, you see, I don't like people who disobey me. They ratted, went home. Eventually, his former secretary of Ayume called me. And he said, he's waiting to see you. So I met Francis. He said, no, Professor, I am not willing to join the government again. I said, but even President Museveni is looking for you. We would like you to help us, and we will come for peace, for putting legality. That's when he agreed to come back as Attorney General. In fact, later he was made
Speaker of Parliament,
Minister, I forget what, and eventually ended up as Speaker of our government, of our legislature. That's what happened. But he was very scared forever because he saw me, execute a minister, of cabinet minister, in front of him and said, now you see, that's what I can do to people who disobey me.
Okay, our viewers, our time isn't our ally, and we want to ask Justice Kanyeihamba to give closing remarks for now. And we shall, when we come back next week, it means we have now, I do not know whether in your view, you think we have exhausted the martial law, Amin's regime. It's a do or die, and then...
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think I have more or less exhausted. That's paid.
So,
however, what I will say is what I'm going to say one sentence, and maybe we start on that one. While we were campaigning in London.
That's 1980.
Yes, there is a what do you call it? A magazine of jokes. It's called Punch. 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 I think it is still existing. It published a cartoon. It published a cartoon of Idi Amin with a machine gun, with Uganda in front of him. And he said, where is everybody? Where is everybody? Because either he had killed them or they had run them elsewhere in the world. So we start with that cartoon. Where is everybody? Where is everybody? Moving the machine around the map of Uganda. Where has everybody gone? Where has everybody gone? And your answer, short one, is they had either been killed or they had gone in exile. And that's why when we overthrew him, the government which came into power was composed of almost all the exiles from outside Uganda.
You inclusive.
Including our president, the late Rule inclusive, the Attorney General inclusive, the chief of the army inclusive, the Inspector General of Police inclusive, among so many.
Okay, we are beginning with the Punch magazine with Amini's cartoon, wondering where Ugandans had gone, and yet he was holding a gun, not realizing that he had either killed some or exiled many. Why don't we catch up next week, Wednesday, 11 to 1? May God bless all of you. Continue sharing and sending your comments. We shall definitely begin beginning our next show with those comments and all questions. This is episode 1. We shall continue with these episodes until we reach the conclusion of this new constitution that we have, which in Justice Kanyehamba's view is equally abused. May God bless all of you.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.